Today, we're going to explore an ancient text that tackles a problem that feels incredibly modern. It's called the Lesser Discourse on the Mass of Suffering.
Seriously, have you ever had that feeling? You know exactly what you should be doing, or how you want to feel, but it's like some other force just completely takes over the controls. It's beyond frustrating, right? It feels like you're not even in the driver's seat of your own mind. Well, it turns out, this is not a new problem. Not by a long shot. About 2,500 years ago, a man named Mahānāma went to the Buddha with this very same issue. And this guy was a dedicated student. He knew the teachings inside and out, but he was still getting tripped up.
And this was his question, right to the heart of it. He basically says, look, I get it on an intellectual level. I know that things like greed, hatred, and delusion are corruptions of the mind. I've heard the lectures. But why do they still completely take over my thoughts sometimes? I mean, how relatable is that?
And he was being super specific about these mental hijackers. He named them. First, labho, which is that intense greed or desire. Then there's doso, hatred, aversion, that feeling of pushing things away. And finally, moho, which is this state of delusion or confusion, not seeing things as they really are. These are the culprits.
So what's the Buddha's answer? He doesn't just say, oh, you just need to meditate more, or try harder. No, he points to one specific corner of our lives that we haven't really looked at closely enough, an area that holds the key to why these hijackers have so much power. He basically points to what we could call the pleasure trap.
The Buddha says the root of the whole issue lies in our relationship with something called kama. Now, this isn't about saying pleasure is bad or evil. Not at all. Kama just refers to sensual pleasures. You know, the enjoyment and happiness we get from the world through our five senses. It's a totally natural part of being human.
And where does this kama come from? Well, exactly where you'd think. Our five senses. Beautiful things we see, music we hear, amazing food we taste, wonderful smells, a pleasant touch. These are the doorways to how we experience the world, and they're the source of all these sensual pleasures.
And that initial hit of enjoyment, that brief moment of gratification, the text calls it asado. That's the hook. It feels good, so naturally we want more of it. We start chasing it. But the Buddha's whole point is that we're so focused on the hook that we never stop to ask about the other side of the deal, which leads to the big question: what is the true cost of all this chasing?
And this is the heart of the diagnosis. It's what the text calls the adinavo, the dangers, the drawbacks, the hidden price tag that's attached to this relentless pursuit of pleasure. And this is where it gets really eye-opening.
Think about this cycle. First, there's the toil, just the sheer hard work we have to do, enduring heat, cold, insects, whatever, just to get the things we desire. Okay, so what if we fail? Then we suffer, right? All that work for nothing. But what if we succeed? Well, then a whole new kind of suffering starts. Anxiety. How do I protect this thing I have? What if someone steals it? And then, eventually, you lose it. It gets stolen, it breaks, whatever, and you're back to grieving again. It's a perfect loop of suffering, all powered by desire. But the Buddha doesn't just stop with our personal stress and anxiety. He shows how this same engine of desire, this kama, is the fuel for conflict on every single level of human existence. It starts inside us, but wow, it does not stay there.
You can see the escalation so clearly here. Because we want stuff, we argue with our family and friends. Take that up a level, and that same desire leads to lawsuits, theft, and all sorts of crime in society. And at the highest level, kings go to war with other kings for land and resources. It's all rooted in the exact same thing, kama.
Okay, so if chasing pleasure is a trap that leads to all this suffering, what's the other option? Should we just embrace pain instead? Well, back then, there was a whole group of spiritual thinkers who believed exactly that. So the Buddha runs into these ascetics known as the Nigaranthas, and their whole philosophy was the complete opposite of indulgence. They believed the only way to get to real happiness was through suffering. Their strategy was to put themselves through extreme physical pain to, as they put it, burn away all the negative consequences of their past bad actions.
But instead of arguing with them, the Buddha just starts asking some really simple, direct questions. He starts with this: do you guys actually know for a fact that you even existed in a past life?
And their answer is just a simple, honest no. They believe it, sure, but they don't know it.
So he continues, okay, well, do you know for a fact that you actually did these specific bad things you're trying to atone for?
And again, same answer. No! You can kind of see where he's going with this, right? Their entire practice, which involves an incredible amount of pain, is built on, well, a bunch of assumptions. So, if chasing pleasure is a trap and self-torture is just a wild guess, what's left?
And this is where the Buddha presents a third way. It's not about enduring pain. It's about cultivating a totally different kind of happiness, one that's so deep and so stable that it makes all those fleeting sensual pleasures look, well, kind of cheap by comparison.
And to make this point, the Niganthas themselves kind of set up this ultimate test. They ask, who's really happier? Is it King Bimbisara, who was one of the most powerful rulers in India at the time, a guy who had access to literally every worldly pleasure you can imagine? Or is it the Buddha, who had given all of that up?
The Buddha turns it right back at them. He asks, this great king, with all his riches and power, could he sit completely still, without moving or speaking, and just experience pure, uninterrupted bliss for a single day and night? And the Niganthas have to admit, no, he couldn't.
Then the Buddha says something pretty astounding. He says that he can remain completely motionless, experiencing that exact state of pure bliss, not for just one day, but for 7 days and 7 nights straight.
And faced with that, what can they say? The Niganthas are forced to concede. The answer becomes obvious. The inner, stable happiness that the Buddha has cultivated is way more powerful, way more profound than the fragile, fleeting happiness of the king.
And really, that's the question this whole text leaves us with. We all spend our lives chasing happiness. We arrange our jobs, our relationships, our whole world to try and get more of it. But maybe, just maybe, we've been chasing the wrong kind all along.